Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you about computer numerical control, or CNC. Being that you're watching my channel, I'm going to assume that you know what CNC is because you're probably a maker. But if you're not and I'm wrong, comment below and I'll be sure to make a video to go into further depths on CNC. But for right now, I want to get into why I'm making this video in the first place. So if you recall from my last video, I designed a loft bed for my son, and the prime decor for the bed was a light fixture for underneath it. And so the concept of the light was a tree with his name stitched into it. The letters actually held up by other branches of the tree. And it came out amazing, and every day when he goes in his room, the light kicks on underneath his bed. It's on a motion sensor, really cool. And he loves it. He uses the whiteboards and draws on them all the time. Amazing project. But because of that one project, because of that awesomeness factor of seeing that light, it sparked an interest in my kids. They actually got a little passion in them and said, "Dad, this is really cool. How did you do this?" Right? And when I talked about the machine and they saw it working and all of that, they were interested. Right? They got this small spark of interest in them to be a maker like Dad. And man, being a parent, that makes you proud, right? That is an amazing feeling. And so my daughter actually came to me first and said, "Hey Dad, I want to take something off the computer and I want to use that machine in your garage." And I said, "Absolutely, I'm not going to say no to that." So we went online and we found a picture of a dog that she really liked because she loves our dog. He's a Maltese, little cotton ball with legs, and she said, "Dad, I really want to cut out Buster and put him on a piece of wood." And so I said, "Sure." So we went online and we came across a throw pillow with a drawing of a Maltese on it, and we were able to pull that in, do some magic on it, get it set up for the CNC machine, and cut it out. Awesome.
Oh, it's drawing the foot! It's drawing the foot! I see it! Dad, look, it's drawing the foot!
My daughter has her cut puppy up on the wall in her bedroom, signed and dated by Dad when they made it. Awesome activity, something to remember for sure. And after we got done with that, my son really wanted to make something, and so we went out looking for an image that he wanted to make, and he suggested Darth Vader, because who doesn't want to cut out Darth Vader? What do you think? And here's a family portrait that I CNC'd for Mother's Day, and then cut it out in 2 stages. Again, my CNC isn't big enough to do it all in one cut. That is a modification that I'd like to make eventually. And there it is, all cut out. So now I'm not going to go through all the details, but I want to share some tips and tricks that I used along the way to prep an image for being cut out on a CNC machine. So anytime you download some clip art or a silhouette or some drawing, right, there's details in the drawing, right? The lines, the widths of the lines, the length of the lines, so on and so forth. And you need to make sure that all of those details can actually be cut out on your machine. And that all basically depends on the bit size that you're cutting out with and how closely related those details are together. So if you're cutting out features, say, of a dog's face or outline of a dog or so on, like I was doing, right, you got to make sure that all those lines are thick enough and that they're spaced properly. How I do it is I go into Photoshop and I do a selection by color. So I select all of the material that's going to be cut. And once I have all that material selected, I go and I do a selection transform. I do a shrink, and I shrink the selection by the size in pixels that relates to the size of my bit, or maybe slightly bigger. Okay? Now, by doing that, if the selection goes away completely, so that outline or that color that I have selected is no longer selected, it's completely gone, then I know that that material isn't wide enough, right? That shape isn't wide enough, that line isn't wide enough to actually be cut out. So one of the things I will do is I will go in and I will touch up all of those spots and make sure that all of the silhouette lines or whatever it is that I'm cutting out actually are wide enough for the bit that I'm using. And I'll usually touch that up by hand. Now you can, if you're careful, use the grow feature, the grow transform, selection transform in Photoshop, and you could grow all of your lines, but that's going to blanketly grow all of your selection in your entire image, and that could blend together some of your details, so be very cautious of that. But once you go through and you clean up all of your image and you make sure that all of it is of the right size and that there's proper spacing. Now the spacing is important too. If you have your lines too close together, some of that material could get chipped away by your CNC while it's cutting. So it's important to make sure that you leave proper spacing, probably more than a bit or two width between your cuts, because material will get chipped away. But once you have that all laid out and all designed, you can take that image and pull it into Illustrator and do a live trace and paint and convert that into a vector. And that image can be saved as an SVG and then imported into whatever CNC program you use to generate your G-code. I use Easel by Inventables just because my CNC machine was originally I bought it off of Inventables, and so Easel is a product that they use with this. It's already set up for the machine. Works great. I'd recommend that. So if you remember one thing from this video, the one thing that I want you to remember is that kids can be makers too, right? Kids of all ages can be makers, and kids want to get involved in STEM activities. They just need to be introduced to it. So please, go out there with your kids, with kids tell your friends, get kids involved in STEM activities, because that's going to be the makers of the next 50 years, right? And so it's very important to get them involved in stuff. And as a dad, it is amazing to have little makers in my house that want to be able to do the stuff that I love, which is just awesome. Can't speak highly enough about that. Now, I will say, don't let them operate the CNC, because that's a spinning end mill that little fingers should not be anywhere near. But all of the prep work, getting it ready, getting it set up, letting them be by it while it's cutting to check it out is cool. Wear safety glasses, appropriate safety gear, hearing protection, that type of stuff. But, get them involved, get them out there, let them see it, because they may fall in love with it. Maybe they won't, but hey, you won't know until you try. So if you take anything away, take that away. All right? STEM is important. Makers are everywhere, right? Thanks for watching.